Alright, so this is Noelle. I guess I'm supposed to be teaching something. Something to do with YouTube backgrounds and Photoshop. So I'm going to attempt to teach something in Photoshop with YouTube backgrounds. I'm going to upload this little template I made. The little gray box here would be the 1280. If you have a 1280 resolution, you'll want to keep within those areas. The other outside is 1680. So if you want to design for both of them, you can have both of those on. Pretty much you'll just use those as a guide to place your stuff. And it looks like that. It just blocks out everything. It's pretty simple. Pretty much first thing you want to do is make a layer. There's a create layer button down here, or you can go to layer, new, layer. And then it'll make a new layer for you. And then you just want to pick your image. Usually I would say go for renders. You know, it'll save you the time of like masking it out or erasing it, which can be kind of a pain. I won't really go over that because it just takes a while to do. So you basically just select all this, Control A, Control C for copy, and then click back on here, Control V for paste. Pretty simple. And then you want to grab your magic wand tool up here and select the background and delete it. And there's probably a space around this area that didn't, right there, didn't get deleted. And if you want to resize the person since he's kind of ginormous, you can do Control T for free transform, or if you want to edit transform, edit free transform. And then if you hold down the shift button, it's going to lock your aspect ratio, so you don't have to worry about stretching him out. It's a pretty handy trick. And depending on what kind of a look you're going for, it really just depends on whatever you want. If you want to cut him off or shove him in a box or something, I'll try and show you all that and see how long I can actually go for. And then once you're done transforming it, just hit the enter button so you can actually edit it again. And this is your layers visibility. Just turn it off and it'll come on and off so you can see the different layers that you're working with. There's some pretty basic effects I guess I can go over. If you want to duplicate this layer, you can make sort of a background outline. That one kind of takes a while, so you can just select outside and it'll draw a line around those. And then if you hold down shift, you can select on the inside. I'm working with a screen resolution that's a little bit small for my liking. And hold down shift and it'll select, the whole character is selected now. And so as you can see, the part that's selected is the background, so you can color that. But if you do Control I, Control Shift I, it's going to invert it so that you can just select him and make sort of a background. So you make a new layer. It just is his silhouette, which is kind of a cool effect. Or if you wanted to, you can go to, let's see, I'm using Photoshop 7, which is an older version to the new CS5 which is out, but I believe they're in about the same spot. If you go to select feather and then enter in how much you want it to go, 5's usually pretty good. It's going to make a feather around the outside, so if we move that down a layer behind him, you can see that it made a very faint outline. If you do it again, I'll just make it darker. And then deselect it, and you can see it's an outline effect. There's so many of them. And And if you didn't want to make it all blurry on the outside, you can go to select modify, you can go to expand instead, and then it'll make more of a hard outline. I don't know why you have to do it so many times, but you do. Kind of like that. I like the other one better personally, but who knows what kind of look you're going for. And then this is just create new layer. I'm not sure I like the background. Let's see, what other tricks do we have? If you wanted to put the character in a box or like a circle or something, you can just draw whatever shape you want. We'll draw underneath him for now. Create something like that. That looks amazingly awesome. It's a vector layer now, which is kind of irritating. So just convert it. You can't really see because my screen's cut off, but it's rasterized layer here. Just trust me, that's what it says. That way it'll get rid of the outline. And then you can just select that right there. And then you want to move up another layer and invert the selection, which is Control-Shift-I. And it'll select outside, and then you just hit delete, and it'll shove them into the little circle. It's also a pretty cool effect. Let's see, what else do we have? Some easy ways to make a background is these types of fractal noise backgrounds. There's a program that you can download. It's called Apophysis. It's pretty much a fractal-based program. You just pick an image on the side and it'll change it. Then you can go to Flame Mutation, and it'll pop up with a bunch of different things that you can click on, and it'll change the image for you. And you can change all these different settings and just keep clicking until you find something that you like. And it'll update that. And if you want to change the color, just go to Flame Gradient and pick whatever color that you want. Kind of a fan of icy blue. It's a little extreme, but it works. And then if you want to render it out, just go to Flame Render to Disk. And then change where you want it to go. Change the size. You can render it whatever you want. Quality 300 is usually pretty good. And then just hit render, and it'll render it out for you. It'll take a while if you have a slower machine, but it shouldn't be that bad. The good thing about these is they have a black background, which, depending on if you've done a lot of photo manipulations or anything, you can put them on a layer and screen them, which I will show you now. Just copy that. And we'll actually make a background. We're gonna make it bright green. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And we'll just add a new layer for our fractal noise image. And then if we go up to the layer properties and we hit screen, it'll take off the black and it's gonna just add the color in there without the black background, which is, oops, it's usually a pretty cool effect if you don't have like a really ugly green background. We'll make it red. Yeah, that looks better. It's perfect. I'm not going to be making a 1280 background. If you want to move this to the top, it might make it easier to actually see what you're doing. Since it's background, if you want to just double left click it, and it'll come up with that, and just hit OK. It's going to unlock your background layer, and then you can just left click and drag all the way up to the top. And then it'll move it to the top, and you can change down the opacity if you want. so you can see what your background looks like, and you can position everything correctly. And if you just want to resize that, that's Control T. We'll just make it really cool. This is the best background ever. Another easy way to make background images would be to find actual pictures and using the filters on them. You pretty much make a lot of layers. They're easier to edit. And then you can apply all different kinds of filters on there to make some pretty cool effects. Unless you want to make your whole thing from scratch, but that takes a lot longer, and if you're kind of new to Photoshop or don't feel like making your own, this usually makes some pretty cool effects. It takes a while to figure out exactly what kind of effects that you want to do. This is going to be the most amazing background anyone has ever seen. And I usually like to overlay more than one of them. And then you can just change the layer properties, and you can usually get some pretty cool effects like that. And if you can actually position this right, you can scroll through the different layer properties with your middle mouse. You scroll through with the wheel. It's a pretty fast way to see what kind of effects that you're getting. And if you start liking what you're getting and you don't want to have so many layers, you can shut off the layers that you don't want to keep separated and go to Layers, Merge Visible. It's going to merge everything that you have turned on into one neat thing. Usually it's a good idea to leave the layers separated in case you have to go back and change something, but it also slows down your computer and makes a really big file, so it's kind of up to you on what you want to do. Usually just like, this is actually a really easy way to make some type of a shadow. Just duplicate it and move the bottom one to the side. And then you can go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast. And you can make pretty cool backgrounds. Just make it white, or if you want to make black, just move them all the way down. If you want to make more of a graphical style. If you want to fade out these different colors, let's see if I want it. You can just delete those and then keep the white boxes, but if you wanted these to fade off, since you have a limit of 256 kilobytes for YouTube, usually you don't want a huge image file for these. It's going to take up a lot of space, and then your images up here are going to get really grainy. So if you want this to fade out, like, let's make this a dark color. Instead of that ending abruptly down here, you can take your selection tool and change the feather up here to, doesn't really matter exactly how much you make it, but like 50. And then just draw a selection there at the end and delete that. It's gonna fade this out pretty nice for you. Usually the bigger selection it is, the more of a fade you're gonna get. A more soft one. Kinda depends on what the look you're going for. And then you can just take your eraser tool and make this kind of big. I always put my opacity down. And then you can just erase the bottom here. Like that. That actually probably be better. And then just fade that so it doesn't cut off at the end.